for being here. We do not have a quorum, but we'll proceed through the agenda and see what we can get done. I would like to, if we could, transpose number 2 and number 3. We'll talk about the budget first and then go through the community tourism action plan. If we could do the things that way. So if we could set the agenda, any other additions to the agenda or changes? Okay, hearing none, it'll stand as altered. And then you have the minutes of the May meeting before you. Little late notice, so you may not have had a chance to review them, so go ahead and do that. So make any alterations, we can do that. And I do see under C, there's a question mark, there's a typo. It's a question mark instead of a 7. And then that happened under E as well. And I don't know what that number is, but it's a question mark instead of a numeral. And you're correct, we cannot approve it, but if anybody sees any other changes, please give those to Cassidy, and if Richard doesn't show during this meeting, we'll approve them at our next meeting. Nothing?
No.
Okay.
I don't see anything, Jim.
So then we will move on to the financial report. And the expenses are all as expected. I don't think there's anything unusual there. There is something unusual when you get to occupancy tax proceeds, and there's some good news there. If you look at March and April.
Amen.
So somebody's been doing something right over there at the Hampton Inn and the Home 2 Suites, I think. So.
Yes, sir.
That looks like the old days.
Yeah. Did we expect March and April to be that good? And can we expect May and June to be that good?
Yes, on both.
Or better?
Or better.
Good.
The whole fall season will be great.
Do you think this casino in Kings Mountain is going to have an impact on you?
I think in the beginning, people will stay with us because there's really not much there. Mm-hmm. There's 3 hotels at Exit 8.
Okay.
But that's going to bleed into Gaston County pretty heavily until they have their own resorts.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll win that business over, that they like staying more in a central area and just having that as an event, like staying here, be able to go to the Whitewater Center and go to the casino and the lake. You know, just more of a central location for vacation, but then having the casino as a day trip or a evening outing or something like that, versus them going strictly just for the casino. So it'll be interesting how that plays out. Or even maybe coming in for a ball game, but then setting aside an evening to go to the casino, that type of thing. So we'll see. Mm-hmm. We need to centralize, yeah.
Baseball and betting?
Yeah. But just, you know, basically putting Gaston County as the place to really visit. And then there's the attraction of versus that's the attraction and all the business going out to the outer skirts, to Shelby or to other locations. There's not a whole lot in Shelby either. We have a Fairfield that we manage there, and then the Hamptons there. There's not a whole lot there as well. So
So what would you attribute the increase in your business now to? Is
Oh.
business travel coming back or
Baseball started. So
baseball?
baseball, Little League baseball, the tournaments have started. So
Okay.
we've seen some business. Belmont Abbey's athletics picked up at the end of their season. So that's your March, April that you saw a growth. And then they had an outdoor graduation. So we had some business come in for graduation. That was right at the gas crisis. So it probably would even have been better if we had not had that sudden gas crisis, because we did see some cancellations due to that. And then weddings are on the go, graduations, family visits, remodeling. The housing market's definitely been a part of it, where folks are selling their home before they can find another home. So our place, the extended stay, we see some people that need to stay with us for a week or two until they can relocate into another property or another home or something. So
Great.
yeah, and I see that through the summer to be all of the, and then Belmont Abbey will pick up again with sports August, September. They're going to do their homecoming in October. That should bring some business in. We have at our hotel some business coming in from the CDC this fall that will be very profitable for the hotel. And then weddings again. I'm booked every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through November at our hotel with weddings.
We are too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, we're sharing several of them. So good stuff. I mean, I think it's just people are moving about and needing the hotels to use. So it's great that we're there and we're satisfying that need.
Good. Any other questions or comments about the financial reports? It's pretty good news, and it rolls into the proposed budget. So I did obviously the budget before I saw this report, and I think it indicates that we might do a little bit better than we budgeted. So we can't approve this now. So I've already given Adrian for the city budget a budget of $75,000. So officially our budget is $75,000 in the city budget. So, I think maybe it makes sense for us to just go with this budget or something in this neighborhood. I did want to preface it with a couple of comments. I put this $75,000 in there after a conversation with Ashley and was kind of affirmed following last month's meeting. And then for the expenses, I include all the usual and customary expenses that we have for liability insurance and the staff assistance and those sorts of things. And then I went down and I inserted the advertising plan as proposed by the Wirely Agency at our last meeting. Then I went back up and I had $15,000 left, and I put that under grants. So I think it does, and I think this latest trend affirms that we can probably help some organization out with some grants, and then maybe we can do some other things once the moon gets here, or there's other projects that we want to support. Maybe we can do a little bit more. The other thing that I did is when I thought we were only going to have $75,000 to work with, is I went to Rob Presley from the Belmont Trolley to see if they would be receptive to altering our payment plan, and kind of went through kind of what our situation was, or what I believed at the time to be our situation, and asked him what the impact would be if we were to ask them to allow us not to pay them in this coming fiscal year, which is July 1 through June 30th of next year of 22. And he said, well, it's an impact, but certainly if you don't have it, you don't have it. And it's, $20,000 isn't gonna devastate them. But then he went on to tell me kind of how things are developing with the trolley project. He told me that they have received on a donation of two trolleys from Charlotte, number 1 car and number 83 car, and went on to expand on how the quality of these trolley cars and where they're from and those sorts of things. I don't remember that detail, but it gives the Belmont Trolley 3 distinctly different kinds of trolleys. And they're working on a project to get them up and going sooner than they would be able to get the trolley that Belmont Trolley already owns. The other thing that he told me is that they are setting their sights on starting construction of the trolley barn for early next year, early 2022. Then after he said that, he affirmed again, certainly if you want to alter your payment plan, you can do that. And what I suggested is that we would pay them in July of 2022, so that they'll still be in construction. They'll certainly need the funds at that point, but that seemed like a reasonable thing to do. Then we started talking about the moon and the suggestion that somebody made, maybe it was you, I'm not sure, that they put the trolley at the moon exhibit. And he said in his mind, he was going to use our $20,000 to pull that off, to get the trolleys from Charlotte, because there'll be some shipping costs, that 20-some miles. It's not cheap to get a trolley here from Charlotte. So they would need to do that. And there would need to be some sort of staging and they'd have signage and those sorts of things that they would want to produce as part of this. Have you talked to Rob about this?
I presented the moon at their last month's board meeting.
Okay.
And that we discussed showcasing one of the trolley cars, the educational fundraiser, but then there was also a deeper conversation about investigating potentially having one of those cars on the track as a means of getting people from maybe up Sisters of Mercy ride the trolley to downtown. So there's been a lot of conversation and possibilities and things put on the table, but there's still, I think, happening a lot of conversations about how feasible all that would actually be.
And what he told me was certainly they can pull off having it on display. He said with 4 or 5 months to go, however much longer they have, he said the rides may be not a practical thing to pull off in that time frame. He's also working with students at UNC Charlotte's Master of Engineering program or something like that to develop a way to move these trolley cars to an alternative energy, alternative fuels. So not diesel or whatever these guys originally ran on. They would be pulled by essentially an electric kind of Pullman car or something like that. Again, I don't really remember the detail, but I do remember, and I think he said that it would be something like $20,000. And in his mind, he was thinking he would use that $20,000 to kind of pull this off. If they're just talking about display, he said somewhere around $5,000 might be the cost of getting the car to Charlotte, developing some materials, and staging it next to the moon. So did that sound kind of right to you? So my thought was, and we've got money for grants, is that maybe, and I don't know how much it means to you, Phil, to have the trolley there. I think it does help. Maybe we give them a grant, an additional grant of $5,000, and delay our payment until July. That may be a possibility. And then there's also now the possibility that we can just grant the moon some money. I assume you still need some funds, and maybe you can. You're still fundraising, so and maybe you can express to us maybe how we can help at this point. Reasonable way to proceed. So, any thoughts?
Did Adrian or anybody mention to you about being asked to fund a position with the city?
No. So what?
Well, right now we're looking at the budget. Yeah. So that would be the time we'd have to talk about that. Do you want to go ahead and mention?
Well, I was just told this morning to invite the tourism board, and I'll follow up with the time, but to invite you guys to the city council workshop on the 21st at 4 p.m. at the old city hall to discuss electric.
Yeah, I had thought Richard and Adrian would be here to talk about it because I wasn't a part of the initial conversation, but they had discussed hiring a Main Street employee to work with Phil's group. And then I guess the conversation kind of proceeded to having it maybe be a hybrid position that could work with travel and tourism and the Main Street. I told them that we were broke, but they thought that, that they could take over some of our marketing agency stuff. And so they want to sit down and talk with us about that. And I said, okay. So,
Okay, well, yeah, that's certainly
So
a
we-
reasonable conversation.
yeah, so, but, so I don't know how that would impact the budget or the timing and stuff of all that, but the workshop's next week or 2 weeks from now, so. And I don't know if any of, they talk, I don't know if anybody has like an actual legitimate proposal on what this would look like,
So is it a marketing person for the Main Street program?
When we were.
Maybe Phil could.
Well, when we were developing, the budget, and we were looking, and we were asked to put forth ideas for positions. So we started talking internally about what our needs are. We looked at a couple of different options during that, and when we met with Michael Applegate and looking at their strategic plans, we kind of talked about a position in my mind. Cassidy is the liaison with the city to the tourism board, and we started looking at, could we look at the Main Street model, how we have, me working with the Main Street board, could the tourism board also have a dedicated member staff, using the Main Street model? And so that was just one of our proposals as far as having a dedicated staff working with the tourism board, and then being like a shared position.
I think it's certainly a reasonable conversation to proceed with. I think my response at this point is, boy, wouldn't we like it to be 6 months down the road? You know, before we did that, I think would be my response right now. But yeah,
Could be something we transition into.
right.
It was just an option that was put on the table along with two other proposals that I put on the table for a particular staff in Main Street. And that's the one that kind of, I think, got the attention of people above me.
Adrian and Richard, I guess yours. Yeah, okay.
I've heard that the city would like this board, at the Main Street board, and the city to get a little bit more unified. I don't know how that looks. This might be a step in that direction. You kind of get everybody just hitting on the same cylinders. But anyhow, I thought I'd mention, since we're looking at the budget now, some things that I would think about before the meeting would be, what would a job description look like for somebody who would fit this role for our perspective? You know, as far as, you know, if they can write and produce content, or like
Yeah,
if they don't
there's
know what a wire is, that doesn't really help an organization like us.
right.
So
So yeah, there's lots of roles, and there's probably some. If you have a marketing coordinator type person, there's probably some economies of scale, things that the Lyerly agency are doing that cost us a lot less money. You know, writing press releases or managing social media, or those sorts of things. We've also talked as a board about some other things that a staff person might be able to do for us, even writing grants proposals for for our organization, or conversations when you were at the chamber and managing a lot of tourist questions, fielding a lot of those questions. And could we staff a location that becomes a tourist info center in downtown Belmont? So yeah, right, it could do a lot of those sorts of things.
You're charting down the path that I was.
That was the
That's
same
kinda
sort of
what-
conversation.
yeah, those are the same words everybody's kind of talking about.
Okay.
And that would be, because it would be, the staff position would be in Main Street, and that would help bridge the gap as far as the communication and working together. Main Street, DDA, tourism board, guard, just having that dedicated staff to really kind of feet on the ground, doing a lot of that work. Some of the minor work pull off of the, out of the contract. just look at those different,
And
would it be a cost savings or a way to fund, help partially fund the staff to get more work done?
And also at this, the workshop wasn't scheduled for this. It was scheduled to meet with Gaston outside because they requested a grant from the city that we funded in the past. And then I think the Montcross Chamber is going to be there as well. And so you have Gaston outside, the chamber, the Main Street program, us, and we're like, there's money going to these different groups. Just trying to hone it in a little bit, not financially, but get some unified vision, I think, moving forward as far as what everybody's doing. And so there's a lot of duplication, I think, out there.
Well, Belmont has long needed a visitor information center.
I'm sorry?
Belmont has long needed a visitor information point of contact. The chamber provided that service pretty much when it was located in the Wells Fargo building on Main Street with more visibility. During the years that we've been in the Stowe building, it's been a lot harder for people to find the chamber because we didn't have that outside signage because they wouldn't let me put the chamber's name on the Stowe building. I tried.
Phil, where's your
But
office?
this would be perfect right now. That's where I was going. The synergy with the chamber offices in City Hall, the Main Street program offices in City Hall, that has long been the place I thought should be the place where people go for
I wonder
visitor
if there would be
information.
a way to not screw up the look of that building or change anything, but let people know that there's like a visitor center type atmosphere. in there.
Signage on the street. Yeah.
Well, I think that, I don't speak for the chamber anymore, but if I were speaking for the chamber, I would be saying we really need the chamber's name somewhere in front of that building. And the downtown Main Street program, the DBDA. Also, there's a way to do that would be in keeping with the planning department's sign ordinance.
There has been a conversation that went up to Adrian about the possibility or the feasibility about putting a sign out front for Montcross.
Yeah.
And stuff. And so that
Right.
has, Adrian said, yes, that could definitely be looked into.
Super.
Forward. So it would be a matter of having appropriate signage out front, tourism center.
Yeah.
Visitor information.
From the like highest level of how you would, every one of these organizations wants the same thing. They want people to come to town and spend money. So if there's things that we could do together to get everybody, instead of everybody doing it on their own, trying to get people to come to town and spend money, if we could get everybody kind of chugging in the same direction.
Well, so the tourism center is one thing that Gaston Tourism isn't really doing and doing well. I mean, if we did this, obviously the time you want to be there is on Saturday and maybe even Sunday. So,
That's true.
and the Gaston Visitor Center was never open on the weekends.
Yeah.
And Mike and his staff have taken a different kind of bent. They don't really even intend on running that as a visitor center anymore. And they're going to do things online. And maybe that's the way to do things, but it does seem like you have people downtown and you do have people that are looking for a particular restaurant, or they're looking,
Yes.
they don't know how to get to the garden, or,
Yes.
they need to find, Belmont Abbey or whatever.
Mhm.
So,
We do just have to come in, talk to chamber staff, talk to us. We're thinking about moving it.
yeah,
Mhm.
We've had that just in the past,
yeah, I'm sure.
And I have that conversation about every day. Our guests want to know what's downtown. And so we just pick, and try to think of what's top of mind. But to have a complete menu of everything that's downtown and offered to our visitors would be wonderful. Because we could just say, go down, stop at Main Street Visitor Center, and you're going to find everything to do. And I think people would do that. Perfect, thank you.
We used to do those rack cards.
I'm sorry?
Those rack cards we used to do.
Yeah.
There.
We did them once every other month.
Once a quarter or so, I think.
We stopped doing them.
They were quarterly.
Yeah.
Yeah, when COVID hit, we stopped doing them.
Well, we-
Barclays would do them, and then we would get some and distribute it to all of our downtown businesses, they'll put them in the cash registers. Yeah, the garbage, so they would get distributed, and our businesses always had them out.
And they liked them, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
because they would have the concerts on there.
Yep.
So they had
Everything going on for a month or two.
all around town.
So, yeah, our plan was to change that whole process, and I don't even remember what that process was. But we were going to try to stop doing, we were duplicating things, and kind of the purpose was to, I think you were going to do one thing and we were going to do the other. And I don't remember who was going to do what.
Maybe that could
So-
be on the agenda at the workshop. Who does it?
But I think that's part of what Ryan trying to streamline, make sure that we're.
There's things we should be doing together.
Yeah.
And roles that we can play independently, because, we may want, the city of Belmont may want visitors to do something different than Gaston County tourism.
Mhm.
So,
True.
so,
I think there's a lot of truth in that.
all right, so to rein this in, we can't approve a budget today, but there is a need, obviously we're not going to hire somebody to relieve some of these duties from that the Lyerly agency is currently undertaking. That's not going to happen tomorrow. So we still need to stay on a path, I think, for now. So what do I do?
I thought you were gonna have the answer.
I don't have the answer. So I think the answer is this limited budget. Actually,
I mean, what's the budget for? Like,
to give us a guideline, to give us a map, to give us a roadmap.
just be more vague.
So and it would give us the authority to enter into a contract with the Lyerly agency.
If what?
It's a vehicle for us to enter into a contract with the Lyerly agency.
What's our contract with them now?
Expiring, I think. So it's the very limited budget that you can see in the expenditures.
Could you do it semi-annually with them?
I'm sorry?
Could you do it on a semi-annually? So give them a commitment for 6 months to the end of the year, say? And
Yeah,
then-
we could probably do that.
Why don't we just continue it month to month as we've been doing it until we?
They have an
figure out what
increase
we're-
in their rate. So
Oh,
it-
they increased the
Mhm.
rate.
that's why I was saying kind of a shorter term, but with their increase of rate.
Can I chime in? Just based off what I recall, I think the current contract is like 35, 38.
Yeah,
And so they proposed around
52, yeah.
so it's not much of an increase, but.
It's not, but we can't really improve any sort of increase. So I think the answer is,
So, but of that 52, some of it does go towards marketing, our events.
correct,
Red, white, and development are finalized if we do them, food fest, Christmas.
Correct.
Museum of the Moon.
correct.
So there's value there, even at the year for at 50,000 or 52,000. So even at that, that's nowhere near what the annual contract used to be. So even in my mind, if that's approved, that still allows for a smooth transition January on if we start looking at a shift position.
So yes, I guess my suggestion would be we go with this rather conservative budget. We also, and part of the issue is, and there's some technical issues with the website right now that have hampered our search engine marketing efforts. And we're trying to correct those, and maybe going to a new hosting service.
I think they're doing some administrative reviews of that. We're able to handle some of the security issues. They actually just emailed about something now, but, I'm not sure if correcting the security portion helps her with the SEM. So I need to clarify that, but we're still in progress. This is
So,
progress.
So I think my suggestion is we send this budget to the rest of the board unless there's changes that the three of you would like me to make to it, we send this to the rest of the board, see if we can get approval for it, just so I can move forward with
I
the
think the
contract.
budget's fine, and then.
The Lyerly agency, and then the Lyerly agency transitions some of their duties to a new person if that comes
If
to
that's what we
fruition.
decide to do.
Yeah. So,
I don't know how likely it is to happen, possible, but I think it's something we should discuss.
I think it's a good conversation to have.
I think the budget looks good, and I think that's a good way to go forward, Jim.
Okay.
And
I
I think
totally support
we need to do what we can to help the trolley and the moon, because those are big tourism drivers, so.
I don't think you really said, does us helping the trolley, Belmont trolley, get the Belmont trolley to the moon exhibit, does that help the moon exhibit? Do you view it that way?
He wants the money.
He wants,
so.
you'd rather have $5,000?
So that helps, that just adds another attraction in downtown.
It expands the experience.
It would help them also than us, but we're still fundraising, trying to, pull off everything, so we're now looking at, we offer some things, but, scale back some things, so we're looking at all aspects of it, we're still fundraising, so would the tourism board giving them a grant to bring the trolley downtown and help us, I would say no.
Doesn't help you at all.
It doesn't help us with the moon as far as funding. It's going to add just another attraction
To the experience.
I think from what you said, we're definitely should be able to do 10 grand, and then every month goes by, that could increase, just as we see what cash looks like, so. I don't know how much heads up you need on this, but that's what I'm hearing.
Do 5,000 to the trolley folks and 5,000 to directly to them.
Well, I think you said we had 15.
We do.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe 5 to the trolley and 10 to them, and then just kind of. We don't have to do it now.
No, we can't do it now.
Wait another month or two,
Yeah.
and just see. But I think Phil needs to start being able to count on money. But I would think 10,000 is a safe number, and then hopefully, we have some good months coming through. Because we haven't done anything this year to get people to Belmont, so we need to do something.
Well, we're having our red, white, and Belmont, but we're also looking at the bands that we've made contracts to get all of the right in our lives ago to see if we can put together a little mini concert series in August. So we're also working on that. So.
I think I understand. I'm going to see if I can just send this to the rest of the board to enter into a contract with the Lyerly agency. Is I think the only thing we really need to do at this point. Everything else we can approve in July. So, okay. Thank
And with
you.
that contract, are you going to change the dates? Are you going to make it a semi-annual, or
I'm sorry.
are you going to keep it an annual? What you're
I
sending
think
out to
I
the
think
board?
it's reasonable.
Okay. I just was
Because it's not much more than we did this year.
Mm.
And it just occurred to me, we typically don't meet during the month of July. Sounds like we might at least want to do a call in July, or maybe we do it later in this month. Maybe I do that and just do it by Zoom. That makes sense?
It's fine.
What was the date, Jim, on the city council planning session?
June 21st.
4 o'clock at City Hall.
Is that something that we need to be at?
Who do they want to? Anybody that's
The entire board.
the entire board?
So I'll send a follow-up email.
You'll send it to us. Okay.
21st.
Would it make sense for us to be there? Do you want us there?
They seem to prefer
Okay.
board members as possible. I think they meant it to be a discussion so much.
We don't have to stay for the whole work session, do we?
Is that 4? It'll be 7 o'clock.
That's Ryan's job.
I'm burnt out on this. We had a meeting scheduled every Monday in June, and we had 3 Mondays in May. I told you, I'm like, do you think you could roll one of these things into the other Monday? Like, it's insane.
Jim, that's when you respond. We can be there for personal agenda.
There you go.
We can, let me put that into the record. We can be there if we're first on the agenda.
I like it.
Did you get that?
That's reasonable. You guys are volunteers. The other people are paid organizations.
They can stay past 5.
Good. I think
All
we're
right.
on the same page.
Good discussion. Thank you, everybody. The Community Tourism Action Plan. I think what Mike Applegate was telling us is that he's got some money and he'd like to give it to us. So, kind of, I wanted some direction to the board. I intended to get a few folks together. Now we have a few folks together, and we can kind of go through this and make it our own. The intent was not for them to tell us what we needed to do. And I think Ryan made a pretty good point during the presentation that, as far as this board's concerned, it may look different from, what the city council's doing. That we may want to go in some slightly different directions, though, with a unified vision and try to get to the same place. And Phil, you feel free to contribute to this conversation as well, because I do think it's the things that you do are important and could be fundable from Gaston County. So it does sound like he's talking about some developmental sort of things as opposed to marketing sorts and promotional sorts of things. So do we want to go through this together and, maybe talk about our accomplishments? I don't know if the SWOT analysis really helps us. Perhaps it does. But then definitely I think we should maybe try to get to the priority projects implementation schedule at the end of this document.
Let's just do that.
You want to just do that and just jump to that? Are you reading page 9?
Yeah. So right now we have our downtown district. Those are probably our biggest tourism attractions.
Mhm.
The hotels get full from weddings and college stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Belmont Trolley is definitely one of our focuses, right?
Yeah, we're in it for 100,000. So
Yep. And I think as far as this, I think that's one of our top priorities. We'd make that number one.
You ought to move up here.
The rowing facility, the rowing center, that's not really on my radar.
it's not on mine either. I think it's good, but I don't. There's not going to be a line getting off the highway to get there.
Yeah.
So
Well, we got the river keepers just,
Well, there would be if they ever get to the point where they're having regattas and or whatever you call those
that's
things,
true.
where they're out there rowing on the river and doing races and bringing people in. And I always envisioned that would happen here. Maybe it will after they get their facility and that sort of thing. But right now, I don't see a lot of tourism in the rowing center.
The Greenway Blueway Trail development.
Yeah, I don't know how we support that. But
I don't either. And
I mean, the city's doing the trolley and they're doing the rec center.
Indoor sports facility venue, is that what he's talking about?
I guess. Yeah.
Call that the rec center then?
Yeah.
We
And I
mentioned
think we're doing the greenway that would go from back here up behind Adams Bluff and stuff up to that new apartment complex coming in on the boulevard. So I think those are the three things that the city's working on.
That this board needs to be supportive of.
I think we should be
Yeah.
supportive of it.
Yeah.
'Cause
And so one's a trolley, 2, the rec center, 3, the trail development. Is there anything not on this list that needs,
Well,
I don't see how,
I think there is, Jim, and I heard a little bit of it last month from Michael. I heard something about youth sports. We talked about parks a little bit. It's always really bugged me that we've got the fastest growing township in Gaston County, a no Gaston County park. why? I mean, we need it more than anybody. And there is nothing that would propel growth and occupancy on the weekends at our hotels more, I don't think, than a youth sports complex. Parents bring in the kids on the weekends to play a baseball tournament or a soccer tournament. We'll fill up our hotels, all 4 of them around here. And I think that should be on our radar if we're talking about advocating for bigger scale tourism development opportunities. I don't know that there's anything we could do that would be bigger than that. I know hotels stay pretty well booked during the week, but weekends are tougher.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what would fill them up. And we've got 4 hotels in this area, 2 in Belmont, 2 in Mount Holly. And right in the middle of it is the Montcross Project and Belmont Abbey and the new hospital and sports already taking place there, athletic facilities at the Abbey. If we could get the county and the cities advocating for a youth sports complex somewhere in that vicinity, and a good partnership with the Abbey, it's surely a no-brainer for the Abbey to bring 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids to Belmont Abbey for summer baseball tournaments and their parents. So I just think, I think a youth sports complex in this end of the county, in partnership with the county and the cities and the tourism authorities, would be definitely should be on this list. I don't know how to make it happen. I think it should be on the list.
Well, would the indoor facility be available for basketball tournaments?
Yes.
Because that is what there's a shortage of in our town, in Gaston County, even more than outdoors, indoor basketball courts.
Yeah, there'll be indoor basketball courts.
Mm-hmm. So if we could make sure that they are competitive size and the right setup with the right stands, you know, seating, that we could then capitalize having some youth basketball tournaments here, that would be great. Because Poston Park has the baseball, Martha Rivers has the baseball. We really don't know where we would play soccer. I guess Martha Rivers and Poston could be used for soccer venues, but there's nowhere in town other than the YMCA that has the basketball, or high schools. And when you know we can't use the schools, that's just not going to happen.
We can.
So
We can
as
use the one in Belmont.
Hmm?
So you'll be able to use the one in Belmont.
Well, and that might be an idea, is to be looking at what we already have available to us, or what we already are working on doing, take it to the next level where we can really profit from the projects already in place.
Cassidy, could you send out the Parks and Rec building info to everybody? And then share it with this board. You guys can look at it, see if you have any feedback.
Because that's what happened kind of with other gymnasiums that were built in town. There wasn't conversation around that, and they were built too small.
Yeah. I think they had envisioned this being used for tournaments. That was part of the sales pitch, but that doesn't mean that.
So we have to make sure all the pieces fit for that to happen.
Because that was also a pitch that was involved with the Belmont Abbey's expansion of their facilities. But then when you took out all the times when Belmont Abbey had to use those facilities, they weren't available for youth sports or adult softball or whatever.
Right. And even our schools aren't, because by the time they do their own practices and their own things, that takes it. Now they're available on weekends if there can be a partnership there to help support. Because when you have basketball tournaments, just like any tournament, you have different venues that you're using for all the teams to get all the games in to make it happen. So it could be a joint effort, but there is a lot of revenue behind these tournaments that would come into our town.
Okay.
I'm just going off of what he started.
Any other thoughts? Any other ideas about what we need to be? I mean, I think.
How can how can we get Gaston County travel and tourism to help us with this rec center?
Well, I'm on that board as well. So, just
Well,
need-
and so am I.
right.
So, I mean,
He's on it. I just visit every year, every month.
I mean, does that help Gaston County travel and tourism? I would presume, because
It would.
so
Absolutely.
I don't know, how would they want to be involved with this project? Is there anything they could do?
Sure. Sure.
And we haven't even, well, I've only been to a few meetings, but there's never even been conversation of it.
So,
An indoor, like,
so we put it on this list. So, and I kind of like the angle that Ted approached it. There needs to be a Gaston County Park in Belmont. And I don't know how it works with the rec center. I don't know enough about that project. Because the rec center is, I mean, it doesn't have ball fields. It's indoor sports.
Correct.
but indoor is needed in Gaston County.
Yeah, and it's needed, but there needs to be an
Outdoor
outdoor
venue.
component
Mhm.
to match it. So maybe that's how they help.
Mhm.
Okay.
We have fields. It'd be nice if we could just get our fields updated or upgraded, or the lighting on them, or
So the North
new
Belmont Park,
turf or something. You know,
that's under Gaston County's watch,
But it's not in the city.
but it's not in the city.
It's not even in the South Point Township, is it? It's in
don't know.
Riverbend, I think.
I don't know.
It's up Hickory Grove Road.
I'm just trying to think of the land that we've secured through some of these development projects. Because as people develop, they give us property that we can in the future
Mhm.
turn into parks, but we're not going to go build a bunch of new parks. So I wonder if we could try and take some of that property and get the county to do something with it. It would, all of our development is in the southern part of the peninsula, so that's where it would be. If we use that property.
Which is needed on that side of town.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's what those people want, is a bunch of people driving down there for a tournament.
Yeah.
More
I'm
traffic.
sure that's just what South Point Road wants.
Thanks, Ted.
I
Ted suggested.
I said put it in the Moncross
Now they'll be
project. I didn't say
traveling
put it
on
in.
Saturdays for Little League Baseball.
Leave 2 hours early.
So that apparently there's been quite a bit of success with the skate park at Lowell.
Oh, at the BMX bike.
Yeah,
Yes, very
So,
popular. And they have had the Red Bull
right.
tournament that brought in business.
And there's what do you call it, the velodrome or whatever it is in Rock Hill. I think that's been pretty successful. Is there any ideas out there like that? Things that are different that don't happen? Or,
Well, I think lacrosse is becoming more and more a sought out
Yeah.
sport.
but that's a youth sports complex.
That's a youth sports concert, but it's different than soccer. It could be used on the same fields, but it is dedicated more to lacrosse versus soccer. And the pool issue has always been out there for Gaston County, is having an aquatic center of some sort. And I know they've talked about the Eastridge Mall property, and
That's not happening.
that's not happening at this point. So aquatics is another. Every school in our county has a swim team, but there's no pools.
It's not an indoor pool.
The only ones are the YMCA, which they rent from, but
Yeah. And they put it.
The aquatic center is not going to take place. It's not going to happen in Gaston.
So
I heard that whole project at Eastridge Mall's done.
I don't.
I'm trying to think. I haven't verified it.
So let me
Like,
let me
investors
temper it.
now.
Let me. So it may be done.
Like I said, I haven't
It
verified.
may be done. So
put that in the minutes, maybe.
So the last I heard is Gaston County had gone to some people in Lincoln County to try to get funding from there because they weren't having any success raising money in Gaston County, or at least enough money in Gaston County to make the project happen. So if that doesn't happen, it may be done.
Well, I had heard that the private developers who were going to develop that whole area
Mm-hmm.
there. So you'd be putting an aquatic center
In the middle of a parking lot. Yeah.
So that might be why it's hard to get money if the private guys
Yeah.
are out of it. But I can't even remember where I heard that this week.
Well, they were looking at Belmont. I mean, or Gaston.
So the other proposal was to put it at Gardner Acres Swim Club. That was because they rent the Gardner Acres Swim Club, and they put over the winter they
bubble.
put a bubble over it.
Mhm.
So it may go back there. So because I know Gardner Acres would want to sell that property because they can't support it. It's in the neighborhood, so it's where I live.
Gardner Acres,
Huh?
Gardner Park.
Yeah, it's Gardner Park. It's Red Bud and New Hope Road, behind Ashbrook High School is where it is. So, but it may be dead altogether. You may be right. Take a look at this, please, and I mean, take a look at the accomplishments, and there's some, I don't know that, certainly the Home Tooth Suites is an accomplishment, having that open, but I don't know that, Jekyll and Hyde is necessarily an accomplishment. I'd like to provide some validity that we've actually kind of vetted this. And let Mike know that we agree with it, or take out things we don't agree with.
I think the increase in wedding traffic and weddings, stays, that sort of thing is something that we have promoted heavily. And, I think we should.
A couple
take
years
some-
ago, the
some of-
weekends were not full at the hotels.
Well, Camelot Meadows is a new venue in Belmont.
I'm sorry?
Camelot Meadows. Have you heard of that yet?
Yes.
They are rocking because they are keeping me very busy. Bridget is the owner. Nielsen or something like that is her last name.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm. It's
We haven't accomplished it yet, though. It's not built.
not built
It's
yet.
not built out, is it?
Oh, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it, is it built out?
Yeah,
I don't know if the whole
they're in
thing's-
business.
They're doing weddings.
Is
Yeah,
the
they're
barn
doing
built?
weddings.
Is the barn built?
I don't know. I've asked her to come do a site visit just so I have a visual.
Deborah, yeah, you're right, Deborah.
Deborah Boxer.
Deborah Baxter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about the same facility.
This lady's name's Bridget for sure.
That's
It's absolutely Bridget. I could.
Deborah was involved.
She is.
Brigid is her last name. I mean, first name. I could find her.
Yeah, Deborah's place, they were trying to get access
Through Holy Angels property.
I think they got shut down.
Did she sell it?
That's
I'm
a
sure not.
possibility.
Do not know.
Julie was where I left that year.
There's some kind of construction going on there. I've been wondering if there was project. There's a road that's been cut in there, construction is
Right,
taking
easement.
place in that vicinity, and I suspected it was something going on with that Camelot Meadows venue, but I don't know that to be a fact. But that is Deborah Box's property, and I'm sure she hasn't sold it.
Neil Niesel is her last name. Niesel. Bridget Niesel. But she is booking majorly.
Interesting.
So I've requested a site visit. I'm gonna go check it out for us. But to say with these accomplishments is having venues like that in our community that is literally pulling people from out of town. Because some of the weddings there, the bride and groom don't even live in Belmont. Like, I'm shocked. I'm like, they're coming out of Charlotte and having their wedding in Belmont, and all their family and friends are coming from Charlotte, staying at the hotel for the evening. We're shuttling. There's so many. There are having party buses, alongside of the shuttles.
Is Camelot Meadows on our wedding website?
I didn't even know it was open. So I don't know.
I guess I'll go venture quicker than,
Yeah.
than later.
I don't know how much we can attribute to this board, but certainly we focused on weddings and booking, because my understanding was the weeks were full with business travelers and the weekends were empty. And the only time they'd be booked was for weddings. And
Yeah,
so
it's
we set up this
changed.
wedding website, started advertising all the venues and caterers and stuff. So
Our
hopefully it helps.
occupancy Saturday night was just under absolutely full.
That's cool. You have suites now, so that's better
We do.
probably for
It-
weddings than the Hamptons.
I mean, the Hampton's full too. I mean, they're doing great businesses over there as well. All right, so what other
Unless you want
comments?
us to look at this and vet it out a little bit more.
I do, yeah. And if you would, maybe I'll send an email to all the board and just to get you to look at it individually. And if we need to change some of the language in there, I would like to present it to Mike as a kind of a comprehensive kind of piece. It's kind of difficult to do, I guess, in this kind of situation, but we'll give you a week or two to do it.
Is there anything else with the marinas or anything down on the riverside that?
So, I think lakefront access is a big issue.
Mhm,
I don't know where that lakefront access is,
mhm.
other than the garden.
I know I'm down the Riverside Marina each week, and it's busy. Like, there's a lot going on down right, just that little piece of water is there anything more we could do at Kevin Lofton to increase?
Well, there's a boat launch,
Mhm.
so it's full. And then there's a kayak launch and fishing piers and stuff. And then there's the marina in Mount Holly. There's a marina right here by the rum distillery. That's privately owned. And then I know where the new development that was approved, Del Webb, they're dedicating a bunch of waterfront property for public use. But I don't think that'll be for electric boats. That'd be more for kayaks and stuff.
And we've got the marina down at McLean.
Yeah, that's under
Morning
construction. That's another
Star,
restaurant.
Morningside,
Okay.
something like that. It's really coming along.
I think we'll have a reasonable amount of access points, but yeah, the water's not fun unless you have waterfront property, so you have to.
Right, but
So,
it's such an
people have
asset to
access.
Belmont. It's such an asset.
so the question is, the restaurant enables people to have access to it, but a marina really doesn't,
Right?
unless you own a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Private.
So what does it do for tourists? What does it do to bring people to Gaston County?
But that's why I was saying with Kevin Lofton, because it's not private,
Right.
or just even having the awareness of the ones that are public.
So maybe the Blu-ray trail is the way we're interested in lakefront access. Okay. Good, thank you.
Because even the river keepers and everything they have going on, even though that's in McAdenville, there's no hotels in McAdenville. We are the closest
And we
hotel
promote
to what's happening
McAdenville.
in McAdenville at the Catawba River Keepers.
Yeah, we promote McAdenville heavily during holiday because we're aware of that. So.
But, because they ribbon cut their new
Mhm.
program on
The boathouse.
Saturday,
Yeah.
I think that would be something we need to just stay close to, because
Agreed.
we have people staying at our hotel that are going to go on these trips. And I'm working with Michael Applegate and Brandon, putting packages together where they will come and have their whole day paddling or rafting, and then have a hotel stay and a restaurant voucher all in one package. So they're literally coming in, staying at our hotel, going to the launch, doing their day, coming back to our hotel, and then we talk about what restaurant will be the voucher.
I think having the Riverkeeper organization relocate from Charlotte to McAdenville is huge for Gaston County.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, we're all about outside recreation, and we're going to bring a lot of people from Charlotte that's going to get familiar with the South Fork and the Catawba River from this side of the river instead of over there. And by the way, while we're talking about that, the groundbreaking for the Riverkeeper facility has been changed from this Saturday till next Tuesday, 4 o'clock on next Tuesday. It's there right across from Spruce Goose on the lake
That'd be a good spot.
in downtown McAdenville. It's going to be their new office. It's going to be spectacular. They'll have large meeting facilities. They'll have a tap room. They'll bring a lot of people to McAdenville and to Gaston County when they get that built. They're a little bit out of the way and out of sight right now up on Willow Springs Road or something up there on the north side of McAdenville down on the river, but they're going to be right in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Watch your chamber emails for that groundbreaking next week. It'll be a big
I
deal.
get 3 every month.
Every month. It should be every week.
Email. I'm on every list.
Any other business to come before the board? Thank you for everything. Thank you for your time.
Can I just ask one quick question, Jim, just for clarification, because I must have been zoned out. At the bottom of the minutes, the first page of the minutes from last week, Michael Applegate posed the idea of creating a special fund between the county and the TDA organizations. What did I miss there in that conversation? Because
I got to run.
I couldn't recall that. I should have brought it up during the minutes, I suppose, but I just found it later.
Where are you looking, Ted?
On the bottom of the first page of the minutes from last month's meeting, last sentence.
So maybe just the phrasing of it is strange, but I think he is looking for a way to unify the Belmont TDA and Gaston County Tourism in funding a project or projects. Maybe that's a better way to state that, Cassidy. It's something like that kind of the point of the Community Tourism Action Plan is to unify the funding sources for projects in Belmont that would drive tourism. So it's not necessarily a fund, but it's the possibility of us working together on a project.
Cooperating financially on projects as opposed to setting up some special pot of money. Okay.
I was just transposing out of the meeting transcript, so I'll be happy to read those.
Anything else to come before half the board? Thank you. We'll stand adjourned.